pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did we restart Boxcast?
Yes.
Roll call.
Oliphant? Here. Roush?
Here.
Hush?
Here.
Gale?
Here.
Delaney?
Here.
Need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Oliphant,
Second.
second by Roush. All in favor?
Aye.
At this point, we'll have public comment. There's a limit of 3 minutes per person on agenda items and local government issues. Seeing none, we'll go to consent agenda. Minutes, City Council 3/25/24, April 8th, 2024 claims, and March financial reports. Is there any questions about the consent agenda?
I have a question. There's a bill for repairs to the fence on the bridge from when the pole fell down.
Yes.
What did we ever decide to do with those poles?
They're being ordered,
Okay,
new ones.
4 of them?
There were only two,
Oh, only 2, okay.
like opposite, where it fell, and then kitty corner over by the billboard
They're just
corner.
offset.
Okay,
Yes.
sounds good.
Any other questions? If none, I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Oliphant,
Second.
second by Delaney. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 7, consideration of resolution number 37-24, authorizing and approving a loan agreement with Dubuque County, Iowa, providing for the issuance of a $200,000 general obligation county note and providing for the levy of taxes to pay the same.
So the county board's already approved our $200,000 loan. It's at 1%. We did have our financial advisors and bond counsel review this to make sure that it was always going to be eligible for tax, whereas they were just gonna kind of do it like they normally do with fire departments and other businesses. So this would just be the final approval. We've asked both of these, both SIPCO and the county, to have payments made like we make our regular debt payments, so there'll be a payment in December and June. Usually December's interest only, and then the principal is in June with an additional amount of interest. So it'll stay consistent with all of our other debt payments.
Any questions? If none, I need a motion, resolution number 37-24.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 37-24.
Motion by Roush,
Second.
second by Hush. Roll call.
Oliphant? Aye. Roush?
Aye.
Hush?
Aye.
Gale?
Aye.
Delaney?
Aye.
Number 8, consideration of resolution number 38-24, approving bond purchase agreement for the sale of general obligation corporate purpose bonds, Series 2024.
So Scott's supposed to be here. He never told me that he wasn't gonna be. So can we,
He might be the gentleman walking
There was-
around outside in a suit.
Yeah.
like,
See
he
a
does it
younger
not
guy?
at 6?
Looks like somebody's up there.
Somebody's walking in right now.
Yep.
Hey, we're ready for you, Scott. Come on. Like, you leave.
Perfect
Time.
timing.
You're up.
You're up.
Like, he's supposed to be
I'll
here.
just come straight here. Sorry, I'm on the phone.
This is Scott from D.A. Davidson, our financial advisors.
Yep, been working with Lisa for, I don't know, 18 months now?
Yeah.
Off and on, talking
Yeah.
about this project. So, you guys have on your agenda to kind of bring this financing plan to a more or less conclusion. The bond purchase agreement is sort of what you're, have on your agenda to authorize, which is a contract that locks in all the terms of the financing. Okay, so from this point forward, there's kind of nothing else the city has to do. Well, there's other steps you have to do, but things won't change from here forward. So we started out talking about just financing the library, and that's taken a few twists and turns. There's been a couple entities around that have helped out by providing some low-interest financing solutions, which the city's taken advantage of. But this would be financing the balance of the debt that was authorized for the library, the Highway 136 project, and then refinancing a small amount of debt for the street sweeper that the city procured, 6 months ago, something like that.
Mhm.
So we're putting all that together in one financing package, so the total amount that's being financed is $1,325,000. I think hopefully Lisa shared some of what those numbers look like, but,
Mhm.
Part of our job leading into this has been putting together the financing package and then putting it in a format that's digestible to investors as a bond issue instead of a loan. marketing those bonds then to various investors, which we didn't really have to get too far. Your local banks were interested in stepping in and buying, I think, most of the issue between the two banks here in town, Fidelity Bank and Onward, so that's always nice. The interest rates came in a little bit below what, our somewhat worst-case scenario type projections have been, but rates have floated up a little bit here in the last month or two, and, we were able to, I think, lock in right around 4%. I've got this right here, I can tell you, I guess.
Do you wanna maybe explain the three
4.009%.
Sorry, do you want to explain the three chunks? How there's like three different rates, maybe?
Yeah, so the bond issue is small by municipal bond standards, right? So it's $1,325,000, and not to say that's unsellable. Obviously, we're here tonight with the offer to buy the bonds, but because of the size, instead of selling each of the years where principal matures individually, which is pretty common, typically, if you have 1 through 20 years of principal amortization, each of those years of amortization can be sold with an individual QSIP or an identifier that means you would buy just the principal maturing in 2025, and then someone else could buy the bonds that mature in 2026, et cetera. In this instance, we lumped together 5 years of maturities and sold that with one QSIP identifier. That way, an investor, instead of having to buy 35 bonds and 70 bonds and so on and so forth, is able to buy $395,000 in 2029, $425,000 in 2034, and $505,000 in 2039. So the city's still able to get the amortization schedule you want, where we structure the deal with a 15-year amortization for the library and the street project, 3 years for the street sweeper. So from your perspective, you still are able to amortize the debt in a fashion that best fits the city's future revenues, but it makes the bonds more appealing to investors by lumping together so they can get a bigger chunk in one shot. Does that make sense? The rates then for the 5-year piece was 3.45%, 3.6% for 2034, and then 4.1% in 2039. So unsurprisingly, the further out on the yield curve you go, the more extension risk you have, and then as a result, the higher interest rate is expected from the investing marketplace. So no real surprise there, but like I said, rates came in relatively good. One other thing, I guess, that was a little bit unique that maybe you wouldn't be familiar with, the city used Build America Mutual Bond Insurance, which is it's an insurance policy like what you have on your house. Effectively, what it says is if the city of Cascade were to default for any reason and not pay the debt service on the bonds, this insurance company will step in and make those payments on behalf of the city. This insurance company is rated AA by S&P. The city doesn't have its own underlying credit rating. If the city were to pursue a credit rating, you would probably expect a A rating. So you get a better rating than what you would have expected on your own. Also, by using the bond insurance credit rating, the premium cost for that insurance policy was $13,300. Comparatively speaking, to get a credit rating for the city of Cascade, you're about $15,000 downstroke, regardless of the size of the issue. So a little bit more, it's both a cheaper product and also it's a lot easier. So from a process standpoint, to go through the underwriting for the insurance policy is a half an hour with me on the phone and them talking about a few things about the city, but it doesn't take up a ton of Lisa's time, the city's time. Whereas a credit rating, there's at least an hour phone call you're gonna have to go through. You're gonna wanna prep in advance, you're gonna have follow-up questions. It just takes up a fair amount of city staff resources to comply with all their requests, costs more money, and at the end of the day, the result you're gonna get is gonna be pretty much comparable to the result you're gonna get by buying the insurance policy. So given the size of the issue, that's a relatively easy decision, but you'll see that as a line item in the sources and uses of funds, and I just wanted to explain what that is, because it's a little bit unique. It's not quite as easily identifiable to say, oh, that's what we're paying Scott or the bond attorney. They're actually buying an insurance policy, even though there's, never been a default of GO debt in the state of Iowa by any issuer in the state, and that probably never will be, at least in my lifetime. Nonetheless, for investors, having that insurance policy gives them a little bit of comfort, but it also gives them a lot of liquidity, right? So your local banks bought these bonds, but if they wanted to sell them in the future and some institution in New York wanted to buy them, they don't know anything about the city of Cascade. There's no underlying credit rating. The only way they're going to buy it is if it's got some sort of homogeneous product description, which is what that is, insurance policy I'm doing a lot of talking. What questions do you guys have?
I assume that also gets us a better rate, typically because it
Yeah,
takes the
exactly.
risk.
So the 13,300 cost, right now, banks aren't buying a lot of bonds. Like this type of issue used to be pre-COVID super easy for us to sell to banks in Iowa because every community bank knows all these little towns and they've got tons of liquidity and they're looking to deploy it for things they know. Just like you want to loan money to the, to the people in your community, not to someone in Virginia, right? You want to loan to Tom's hardware store. Well, things have changed a little bit in the sense that liquidity in banks is not what it used to be. During COVID, there was money everywhere and everyone was buying everything in sight. That's not so much the case anymore. Things have tightened up quite a bit, really, both in terms of credit standards and just, banks through COVID put a lot of these types of bonds on their books at very low interest rates. Great for people that was borrowing money. Not so good for banks, though, when rates went up, right? So they kind of got snake bit a little bit. I'm giving you a real long answer here, but the point is now banks aren't buying this kind of stuff nearly as prevalently as they used to. So by getting that insurance policy, it makes the bonds marketable to other institutions besides local banks. So, there's hedge funds in New York that will buy this type of product if it's got that insurance policy on it. That helps us get a lower interest rate because there's a broader universe of investors that will actually look at it. Whereas if it's just City of Cascade with no rating and no enhancement, if your local banks would have said no, our next call is, I don't know, right? It just gets a lot tougher. And it's a supply and demand thing. So the less people are interested, the higher your rate has to go to attract someone to buy the bonds.
So when we did the math, it made sense to pay that and justify what we should have saved with a lower interest rate. And then I've been through bond ratings and it just didn't seem, again, the smaller the amount, the less impact to the decrease in interest. And it's a pretty hefty lift for
Just-
going through those bond ratings.
Just curious, on a credit rating for a city or whatever, does that get reviewed every year then? So there'd be
It's
additional
usually every other
time?
year. Like there's a surveillance process about every other year,
Okay, so
typically.
if a person were to do that, or if community was to do that, in the future, there'd be time for every review as well, so it'd be
The
savings.
review is usually fairly simple. They'll usually get most of the information they need from your audit, but if anything looks out of the ordinary, you're gonna get a phone call and you're gonna have to send them information. Otherwise, they can withdraw the rating or downgrade the city. And, while that doesn't have an immediate impact on you because you're not borrowing money in that moment, it'll come back around and haunt you next time you do need to borrow money. And it's
Okay.
just kind of not something you want to do.
From a timing perspective, we're planning to close May 7th.
Yep,
So we'll have the funds this fiscal year.
exactly. You'll have this action item here tonight. You'll have another, what's called an issuance resolution action item for your next council meeting in April. That'll be the last thing that needs to be done besides filing some of that resolution paperwork with the county. Then closing will happen on May 7th and we'll wire funds at that time.
So that'll be good from a timing perspective, just on making payments for both of the big projects.
Yeah.
We'll have those funds. Any other
So
questions?
it's amortized over 20 years,
15 years
15 years.
for the big two, 3
Yeah.
years for the little
For
guy.
the other one. So do our payments level the entire time, or are they higher the first 3 years?
Oh, there's a little
So
fluctuation.
the street sweeper is the first 3 years, and then the other two are on a 15-year amortization thereafter, with interest only in the first year. So if you'll recall, TIF certifications are due December 1, so you don't really have this big influx of TIF for FY 24-25, because we're already past the deadline to certify debt for that. But once that's done, then you'll go to your standard payment amount, which will be consistent through 2039 when the bonds are paid off.
Okay.
Yep.
So like this year, because I said it was interest only for the two big projects, it's 35. And then there's as high as 100, 110, 75, the lowest is 75. So there's a bit of a fluctuation in the principal payment.
Yeah, the P&I's level, I should say.
Correct. And then we have it split out, like they've given us an amortization schedule for each of the 3 loans so that we can charge them appropriately. And as you'll know, if you ever didn't want to do TIF, you could always levy, you could do sales tax, whatever you want, but you always have all 3 tools for purposes of repayment. Any other questions?
That's all I got.
So do you want to stick around just for the debt policies, that's our next item
Happy to.
before you leave. Okay.
I need a motion on resolution number 38-24 then.
I'll make a motion on 38.
Motion by Delaney,
I'll second it.
second by Oliphant, roll call.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Number 9, consideration of resolution number 35-24, authorizing adoption of policies and procedures regarding municipal securities disclosure.
So when we went through this process, Dorsey and Whitney as our bond counsel, they reviewed our debt policies, and I think that they had found that there were a couple of things that we needed to update. So those are in your packet, and maybe, I don't know, Scott, if you just kind of want to explain like what the purpose of those policies are from protecting the city with regard to our debt.
Sure. So part of any publicly issued bond issue now that's over $1 million requires that the city enter into what's called a continuing disclosure agreement, or CDC, continuing disclosure certificate. And what that says is that the city covenants to disclose certain information about the city's financial condition on an annual basis. The process to do that is you just upload this data to a website that's administered by the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board. DA Davidson can serve, and I think will serve as the city's dissemination agent, so we'll send a reminder, collect the information, put it into the proper format, and upload it on the city's behalf. But the policies are effectively just, formalizing that the city is aware that you've got this obligation. Not only do you have to make these annual disclosures, should one of, I think there's 14 listed events occur, the city also has a 10-day requirement that you're going to provide notice to bondholders in the event one of those occurs. Things like rating changes if the city had an underlying rating, or probably the most pertinent one that changed in 2019 was incurrence of a financial obligation. So if the city were to borrow money at the local bank for a dump truck next year, borrow for $400,000 just down the street, you are obligated to disclose that to the bond market. That way, a bondholder would be able to know that, hey, the city's taking on some more debt. Maybe that changes how we view or perceive the creditworthiness of the city of Cascade, and I may choose to buy or sell the bonds now out of my portfolio based on this new information that's come to light. So it's really just, again, formalizing that the city's aware that, hey, because you're issuing debt into the securities marketplace, you've got some obligations to just provide information. It doesn't restrict you from doing anything. It just means, hey, be conscious of the fact that as you do things in the future, you need to make sure that bondholders are aware of it. And again, we're the conduit for that. We'll try to keep you apprised of what those obligations are on a go-forward basis. But things like borrowing money or bankruptcy, things like that, again, not going to happen. But if they did, you are obligated to make a disclosure to the marketplace within 10 days of the occurrence of one of those listed events.
We did set the threshold at 150, so like our sweeper loan, being that the loan itself was at 105, we didn't have to disclose that, but we just need to remember going forward, if it was ever over 150, that was the threshold that we
Yeah.
decided. So it's not absolutely every dollar, but over 150 we.
A copy or lease, things like that don't matter. But, and frankly, if you borrow money through this process, again, where you sell bonds to the marketplace, they're already going to be aware because that information does get disclosed through part of the issuance of the new bond, so it doesn't apply to that either. And if that's how the city borrows money in the future, again, kind of a non-factor.
You'll recall the last meeting, we switched to DA Davidson for our dissemination agent. So that was where we had talked about having the same firm that's helping us be the one that needs to disseminate that information on our behalf, so that we didn't have somebody that we never talk to except once a year, not know what we're doing throughout the year. So that's why we, if you recall, switched to Scott's firm.
Yep.
Any other questions on that? Otherwise, we would be looking for approval of resolution 3524.
24. Need a
Like
motion? Motion by Delaney,
I'll second.
second by Roush, roll call.
Hush.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Number 10,
Do you need signatures tonight?
No, you can just email it.
You're sure? Okay, that's all we need. You're
number,
welcome to stay, but not if you don't want to.
You're all ready to go.
Thank you.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Scott.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott.
Number 10, do we need to do the consideration to suspend first?
Yes, please.
We have a consideration to suspend the 3 separate meetings rule and adopt the ordinance at this meeting for ordinance number 08-24. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to suspend the 3 meetings rule.
Motion by
I'll
Roush,
second it.
second by Oliphant, roll call.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Number 10, consideration of ordinance number 08-24, public library lot rezoning, and this is the second and third reading.
Again, you'll recall we went over this last time, had 2 public hearings, moving from R1, single-family residential, to C2, general retail, which the main purpose of that is that it's the only district in that area that allows for public buildings like a library, and then it also helped us with setbacks. While we're not at a 0 setback, we have a 0 setback rule there. I think we have like 12 feet on the front, Second Avenue, and then like 11 feet to the alley where the drive-up is to drop your boxes off, so, or books off, sorry.
Did we have anybody else from the community?
We did not, it was just that one neighbor that had been before the original public hearing with P and Z, and
That was it.
we answered all their questions.
Perfect.
If there's no questions, I need a motion on ordinance number 08-24.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 0824.
Motion by Roush,
Second.
second by Hush, roll call.
Gale.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Number 11, consideration of resolution number 39-24, setting a public hearing for the fiscal year 2025 budget adoption on 4/22/24.
2 weeks from tonight would be, the ad would go in the paper this week. It's a summary of the budget that you've been talking about, goes kind of through different line items. And so in order to have that, and it matches everything that we just went over for taxes. So that would be your last approval. We'd have the public hearing and then we can approve it that night. If you needed to extend it, we could always have another meeting the following, that week later, but it has to be to the state by the 30th of April. So all you're doing right now is just approving that the hearing notice is in the paper this week, and we're going to have the hearing in 2 weeks.
Need a motion on resolution number 39-24.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Oliphant,
Second.
second by Delaney, roll call.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Number 12, consideration of resolution number 36-24 to appoint Planning and Zoning Commission David Merrill.
We had 2 vacancies. We were able to find one person for the, we still have another vacancy if anybody's interested. This term was vacated, or this spot was vacated back in September. So that's why it's only a 2.5-year term. By code, you'd read that it was a 3-year term. But that'll go from tomorrow to the end of September of '26.
I need a motion for the appointment of resolution number 36-24.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 36-24.
Motion by Hush,
I'll second the appointment.
second by Roush, roll call.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Number 13, consideration of resolution number 40-24 for the City Hall improvement to repaint doorways and west side entrance.
So I'm trying to get different prices. I have one price on kind of redoing the entranceway. You'll recall, for those of you that were on the council maybe, a few years back, I think it was a little bit before I came, they redid the pillars on the south side because they were kind of rotting wood. So they did like a wrapped thing, so there's no more wood and it's not rotting, it's a composite. So there's a lot of flaking going on those front pillars. After we sent the nuisance letters out, one of the persons said, when are you gonna fix your own flaky paint? So, good point, we'll work on that. So it's, I do have one price, I don't want to say it out loud because I'm hoping to get another one. And the other thing is that we could just have them scrape and paint that if you would prefer. I'm waiting on, again, a price on the painting, but you'll recall last summer we had someone try to paint black paint instead of the green to kind of match the letters, and it didn't work so well. So we kind of, with metal painting and fine motor skills on little tiny door frames, we'd like to get a professional painter. So they're trying to get me prices, but I thought instead of holding this up, if the council's good, as long as we stay within the budgeted expense of the $20,000 for, that's our building improvement. We didn't really spend anything last year out of that account either. And obviously the reason I waited until now was so that we could make sure we didn't have any sort of building catastrophes for the first 10 months of the year. So if the council's okay with that, this resolution would basically say I can go ahead with who's ever low, assuming that painting and the front, if we redo that, is under the 20.
We have a price on the cladding or on painting?
I don't have the painting prices yet, because
Okay.
I've been waiting.
Okay.
But what I do have a price on, which would be completely redoing the pillars right here. And then if you look up above, the mayor likes to point out that we have a drippy seal, like a crack in the gutter up there.
In the
So it'd be a new piece of gutter, which is a really big gutter. And then the two pieces of gutter over here, like we have the peak kind of, so there's two small pieces of gutter. The price includes replacing those so that the three on that west side match.
Can that
And then
joint
we-
just be cleaned and caulked?
We tried that, but it's still, I mean, it's better, but
It's still
I think if we're going, and then what do you call the stuff that you put up above? That's not, it's more like a composite. It has a word.
fascia.
No, the flat part of the, like you walk out and look up and there's a ceiling there.
Soffit.
Soffit?
No.
Multiple choice.
Batten board, something. Yes, it's like on the other side. Like when you walk out of the other door and you look up, there's a huge ceiling up there that has like a plastic composite material.
Oh,
up there.
yeah, that.
Batten, something, right?
Car siding.
Old ceiling.
Anyway, it's not wood so that it does not
Yeah,
rot.
that's-
And if you look up, you can see like rotty wood up there as well. So it would be replacing that as well, so that we're basically just kind of maintenance free on the doorways. And then get them painted with the goal of painting them black, which there's nothing else green on the outside of the building. So with the letters saying City Hall on both sides being black, so that is my request.
Do I have a motion on resolution number 40-24?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Oliphant,
Second.
second by Hush. Roll call.
Hush. Hush.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Roush.
Number 14, fiscal year 25 budget discussion.
Just making sure on the agenda again. I'm assuming no one has any questions. We'll have the final reading then in 2 weeks. Or if you have questions, you can let me know. Megan's like, don't you dare.
Riley, do you have a question?
No?
He didn't.
I just wanted to ask. Number 15, reports. Fred?
I don't have anything other than what was submitted.
Okay, thank you.
Can we go back up to bills, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I had this on here. I forgot to say it verbally, but we have $150 to be a sponsor for Cougar Pride Day, which normally I always say no to everybody that's like, oh, help us place an ad in the paper for this or that. But this is going to, so that all the kids have the same T-shirt on throughout that day. And the reason I agreed to recommend the 150 as a sponsor, so our logo would be on the shirt, is because a huge amount of the work that they do is on behalf of the city. Like, they're gonna paint fire hydrants, clean out the parks, help Monica and our public gardens. So, do you guys wanna have a motion to have that be added to the bill so Kathy can cut a check for them tomorrow?
I'll make a motion to that effect. I think this is a really great thing, and I know we are a sponsor as well as one of our businesses.
Makes
so.
all the kids really visible.
Yeah, it's just safer too.
Second.
Motion by Oliphant, second by Delaney. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks.
Thanks for bringing this up, Lisa.
Yes.
And Fred. Library furniture.
So I'll give a couple library ones. We were supposed to have a meeting last week on the furniture, and then I had to cancel going up north for the funeral, and then I think Monica or Marie, somebody else, or no, it was Melissa, didn't have a great coverage person. So we're actually meeting this week now, so I'll update you after that. We are going to start our every other week meetings with the contractor and FEH, so starting now, after they've kind of gotten everything going. Every 2 weeks, we'll meet here during the day, just myself on behalf of the city, obviously FEH as well. With regard to grant funding, we had the CAC grant. We were able to turn in our first submission, which was due this last week, and we were approved. So we'll be getting about 79,000 of the 460. It was whatever we had spent so far times 17%. Kathy helped me get all that stuff organized, and I think that's everything.
Was that a fairly easy process? I know you were worried about that.
It wasn't too bad. You know, it was just making sure, like, they actually didn't require us in that one to submit a canceled check. The one that was most complicated was the downtown housing grant, but that was really more on Brian Bach, so.
And they didn't come back with a lot of questions or anything?
wasn't here. I wonder if she's thinking, I don't know. Anyway. It wasn't too bad, though. And then I do have 2 more grants that I'm gonna apply for. The Woodward Communication, they had provided funding for the pool. And, so we're gonna apply for that. It's not due till August 1. And then the McDonough Foundation has also agreed to do something, so should be good. That's all I have for that. Do you want me to go on to mine?
It's your turn.
All right. On my report, we ended up, if you recall last time, we had talked about having a public hearing here for the lots that we found out in the industrial park that we thought were still zoned ag when we were talking about burn permits. You don't have that number in there. Can you hold on? There's a city emergency that needs a phone call.
Yeah, Haley said she needs the city guy's on-call number.
Yeah.
There's rushing water in the new city park bathrooms.
Oh, well, I know it's turned on. She actually sees it rushing?
That's what she said. I
Or
don't,
she can hear it because it's turned on.
she's at our house. I don't know. Somebody must have called her.
All right. Sorry. They did tell me if anybody hears water running, it's turned on because we have to flush it to do back T-tests. Okay, so unless it's gushing out somewhere. Okay, sorry. So what we figured out with the help of Mike Weber, he was able to figure out that back in 2005, it was actually rezoned properly. What never happened was that no maps ever got updated. So when you look at those ordinances, it'll say, and update the map. So I had said we were gonna redo the process because I couldn't find anything, like our records minus going in the basement and digging through Lord knows what. Like, we don't have that stuff back from '05. So Mike did kind of help me learn a little bit better about the systems that are out there to look for that stuff. It's a bit, he's obviously at an advantage because a lot of times he did those plats and remembers those. So in the future, I probably have to just call Mike Weber. So we appreciate his help. So thankfully, I found it out right before we had the P&Z meeting last week, Thursday. So I emailed all of them like an hour before and was like, call off the dogs. We don't need a meeting. So then I did not put it on your agenda. Well, number 6, everything, I think I told you that last time, is back out. Maybe at the last meeting, we hadn't tested the water yet. But all the water passed all of its tests, so now we're again alternating between 5 and 6. And our contractor, Northway, is working with the insurance company, so we'll know more as we approach those conversations with them, if they're gonna concur. Northway, knowing the things that they've dealt with in the past, believes that should be eligible for an insurance claim, so.
Could be good.
Yes, we'll let you know about that. The bathroom water, I was going to tell you, is going to be on soon. But there's water running in both bathrooms tonight just because we need to clear out all the lines from the winter water that sat there. It's not usually on heavy, but it clears everything out. Then they have to send back T-tests. That usually takes a day or 2, and then the goal would be to try and open them by Friday. It's always a challenge with winter freezing at night. 2 weeks ago now, I attended my city managers conference, which was just for the state of Iowa. Good conference, talked a lot about change, and cities who don't look to make change are kind of dead in the water, and that you really have to, which I think you guys are all great about that, being willing to look to the future, and then obviously there are cities that have a harder time with that. When they were talking about some of the debt stuff and our policies, Kathy and I both watched a virtual online training for debt and just some of our requirements that were through Dorsey and Whitney, our bond council. We did find a young man that we hired for the summer position. I won't say his name out loud because I have to inform the other candidate, but the one that we chose has accepted the position. Had a lot of good references. He's from here and had been on sports and things, got a lot of positive references from local teachers and coaches. So I'll let you know who that is. We are finally scheduled to have a pre-con for the highway, not until the next council meeting week. That week of the 22nd it'll be, but at least there's hope for us to get a little bit better timeline. people who are using the park this summer are very anxious about us being able to have more information between tournaments, family reunions, how people are gonna get in there, things like that. I think that is, oh, we also, remember that we had that, you guys graciously offered to help pay Brian Bach part of the money that we were gonna get of that 360, that we paid him the 180. We have gotten through the whole process, and we are approved now for the 360. So I think they said it might take 3 to 4 weeks to actually get the funds in our account, but you'll recall that that resolution that you passed allowed us, that as soon as we get the money, to transfer that. And so Kathy will watch for that, and then we put it as a, it already may go out prior to or in between meetings, but the good news was that for all the documentation that we provided, it was approved, so. And I think that's all.
Thank you. At this point, we'll have public comment. You have a limit of 3 minutes per person, only items on this agenda. Seeing none?
I have one more thing. Sorry.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, so we had, if you want to approve this, kind of like the 150, so we had $200 that Mike Beck paid for the ad in the newspaper for planning and zoning. So we have two options. We either eat it because it was our mistake, and there's an ad in the paper. So I would say we should just refund him the $200. There will be a little cost to us for the ad in the paper, but really it was kind of on us to not be able to find that paperwork. So if you're okay with it, we could also cut him a check if you want to have a motion to approve refunding the $200.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Motion by Oliphant,
Second.
second by Delaney, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have two questions too. First question, how is, okay, so 136, I know you said we have the pre-con coming up. Do they have any idea of approximate start date? That's the big question that I keep getting.
Trust us, we do too. We get people calling, they're like, we know nothing. All I know is that I'm hoping it will be fairly early in May, because they have I think what they said was that they had a project, a small project that they were awarded in Piasta. There was maybe some pipe work, and whatever crew is there is coming here. So every time we ask, we don't get anything, except now we're having the pre-con, so we're hoping in about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, that we'll be able to put the word out. And if we get the word, we can certainly post that, even just for people who haven't been asking. I made sure, like Little League, we can certainly look at anything that Kathy's rented out already for the pavilions at the city park, and we could try to make contact with those people just so they know as well.
I assume the schools have been, for buses and where we've been contacted.
We are hopeful that it won't affect too much for school, but yes, we informed the superintendent, who informed the transportation person.
Okay.
And we'll keep them again as soon as we know. Kind of made sure that we told Bard and Whitefront that we would also let them know as soon as we know, so.
It might, has anyone reached out to Aquin though? Because they wouldn't get anything from the superintendent. And that way, because like there's a lot of parents that do the pickups there, so.
I think we told them, but I'll double check.
Okay, thank you.
And for sure, once we have real news, we'll make sure everybody knows.
If there's nothing else for the betterment of the community, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Delaney,
Second?
second by Hush, all in favor?